I throw lecture on the subject compiler design. Subject code CS702. This is for computer science and engineering students. I am Konkon Jana, Assistant Professor of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Greater Kolkata College of Engineering and Management, JAS Group. This is module 2 of the subject compiler design, having the subject code CS702. This lecture based on the syllabus of BTech Computer Science and Engineering of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad University of Technology, West Bengal, formerly known as West Bengal University of Technology. Contents of module 2 lecture is syntax analysis, which have 8 lectures in total, the role of a parser, context-free grammars, writing a grammar, top-down parsing, non-recursive predictive parsing, bottom-up parsing, handles, variable of prefixes, operator precedence parsing, LR parser, SLR, LA, LR, parser generator YACC. Error recovery strategies for different parsing technique. Syntax directed translation, which have 4 lectures in total. Syntax directed definition, construction of syntax trees, bottom up evaluation of S attributed definition, L attributed definition, bottom up evaluation of inherited attributes. So we will start lecture 2 of module 2 in this session. I am using digital whiteboard for better dictation. Important points and some references will be written in this board. So we will start with error recovery strategies. Once an error is detected, how should the parser recover? Although no strategy has proven itself universally, which is acceptable universally, a few methods have broad applicability. The simplest approach is for the parser to quit with an informative error messages. When it detects the first error, then it will be applicable. Additional errors are often uncovered if the parser can restore itself to a state where processing of the input can continue with reasonably hopes that the further processing will provide meaningful diagnostic information. If errors pile up, it is better for the compiler to give up after exceeding some error limit than to produce an annoying evolution of spurious error. One is panic mode recovery, that is in details I like to discuss. With this method, on discovering an error, The parser discard input symbols. Parser discard input symbol. Okay. One at a time until one of a designated set of synchronizing tokens is found. So the synchronizing tokens are usually delimiters such as semicolon or comma, whose role in the source program is clear and unambiguous. The compiler designer must select the synchronizing tokens appropriate for the source language, while panic mode correction often skips a considerable amount of input without checking it for additional errors. It has the advantage of simplicity, and unlike some methods to be considered later, it's granted not to go into an infinite loop. Next is the phrase level recovery in details. I like to discuss. On discovering an error, a parser may perform local correction on the remaining input. That is, it may replace a prefix of the remaining input by some string that allow the parser to continue. A typical local correction is to replace a comma by a semicolon, delete an extraneous semicolon, or insert a missing semicolon. The choice of the local correction is left to the compiler design. Of course, you must be careful to choose replacement that do not lead to infinite loops, as would be the case. For example, if we always inserted something on the input ahead of the current input symbol, phrase level replacement has been used in several error referring compilers, or as it can correct an input string. Its major drawback is that its difficulty it has in copying with situation in which the actual error has occurred before the point of dictation. Next one is the error production. Error production. By anticipating common errors that might be encountered, we can augment the grammar for the language at hand with production that generate the erroneous construct. A parser construct from a grammar augmented by this error. Production detects the anticipated errors when an error production is used during parsing. So the parser can then generate appropriate error diagnostic about the erroneous construct that has been recognized in the input. Next one is the global correction. Ideally, we would like a compiler to make as few changes as possible in processing an incorrect input stream. There are algorithms for choosing a minimal sequence of changes to obtain a globally least cost correction. Given an incorrect input string x, and a grammar G. This algorithm will find a parse tree. Find a parse tree. For a related string y. For a related string y. Such that the number of insertion, deletion and changes of tokens required to transform x into y is as small as possible. Unfortunately, these methods are in general too costly to implement in terms of time and space. So, these techniques are currently only of theoretical interest. Do not do note that a closest correct program may not be what the programmer had in mind. Nevertheless, the notion of least cost correction provides a yard yardstick for evaluating error recovery techniques and has been used for finding optimal replacement string for phrase level recovery. Okay. Next, we will know about the context free grammar. Grammar systematically describe the syntax of programming language, construct like expression and statement. Using a syntactic variable STMT to denote statements and variable expression the production specifies the structure of this form of conditional statement. Other production then define precisely what an expression is and what else a STMT can be. This section reviews the definition of a context-free grammar and introduces terminology for talking about parsing. In particular, the notice of derivations is very helpful for discussing the order in which production are applied during parsing. So the formal definition of context-free grammar is a context-free grammar or a grammar in short consists of terminals consists of terminals non-terminals a start symbol and a production of grammar. So terminals are the basic symbols from which strings are formed. The term token name is a synonym for the terminal. And frequently we will use the word token. For terminal, when it is clear that we are talking about just the token name, we assume that the terminals are the first component of the token. Okay. We assume the terminal is the first component of the token output by the lexical analyzer. In this section, we can see that on. Okay. The terminal are the keyword if and else and the symbol. Okay. If, else and the symbol this parenthesis. These are the terminals. And non-terminals are syntactic variables that denote sets of the string. So in this diagram, STMT and EXPR, STMT and EXPR are non-terminal. The sets of string denoted by non-terminals impose a hierarchical structure on the language that is key to syntax analysis and translation. Next is the start symbol. In a grammar, one non-terminal is distinguished as the start symbol, and the set of string it denotes is the language generated by the grammar. Conventionally, the productions for the start symbol are listed first. Next is the production of a grammar. The production of a grammar specify the manner in which the terminals and non-terminals can be combined to form string. Each production consists of a non-terminal called the head of left side of the production. This production define some of the string denoted by the head. And next is the symbol. This is actually varies, okay, and the symbol is this implied symbol. Sometimes we can be used as like that, okay, has been used in place of the arrow in some cases, okay. Now a body or right side consisting of 0 or more terminals and non-terminals, the components of the body describe one way in which string of the non-terminal at the head can be constructed. Now we know some notational convention to avoid always having the state that these are the terminal, these are the non-terminals, and so on. The following notational convention for grammars will be used throughout the lecture session. So these symbols are treated as the terminal, such as that A, B, okay. These all are the terminal. Operators, plus, punctuation, that is this, the digits 0 to 9, okay. Boldface strings such as ID or if, each of which represents a single terminal. And these symbols are non-terminals. Uppercase letter, okay, uppercase letter A, B, okay, C, the letter S, which is actually used when it appears, is usually the start symbol. S will be used as the start symbol. Lowercase italic example, EXPR, italic, EXPR, STMT, these are the start symbol. When discussing programming construct, uppercase letter may be used to represent non-terminals for the construct. For example, non-terminals for expression, terms and factors are often represented by E, capital E, by capital E, T, okay, F, okay. So these are the non-terminal. Uppercase letter let in the alphabet such as X, Y, Z represent grammar symbol. This is either non-terminal or terminal, whatever way it. Lowercase letter in the alphabet, chiefly U, V, Z These all are the strings of terminal. Lowercase Greek letter, that is alpha, beta and gamma, for example, represent possibly empty string of grammar symbol. Empty string of grammar. Thus, a generic production can be written as A, suppose, to alpha. A to alpha. Where A is the head, A is the head and alpha is the body. A set of production A to suppose alpha 1, A to alpha 2, okay, and like that A to alpha k with a common head A, with a common head A, okay, and this is called then a production, and it is called then a production of A. And also in some cases it may be written as A, this is the production of alpha 1, 5, alpha 2 and so on alpha k, okay. And the next is unless stated otherwise, the head of the first production is the start symbol. Okay, clear? Thank you.